Many characters and episodes throughout every season of American Horror Story are actually based on true crime events and historical figures. Let's look at the series as a whole and identify 10 real-life horrors that served as a canvas for whimsical and petrifying masterpieces. In American Horror Story Cult, Kai Anderson is a demented cult leader that is obsessed with anarchy and chaos. He creates and develops the starring cult of the season, very similar to how the Manson family operated. In fact, he acts like a blue-haired version of the famous cult leader, even hallucinating the monster as a sort of mentor towards the end of the season. In episode 9, Drink the Kool-Aid, Kai finds inspiration in another cult leader, Jim Jones. He convinces his cult members to drink the artificially flavored drink in a haunting scene based on the real-life tragedy of Jonestown. The real-life cult committed mass suicide by drinking a Kool-Aid-like beverage dosed with cyanide, giving life to a common expression that serves as a namesake for this episode. In Murder House, Tate Langdon goes on a mass shooting spree at his high school after the darkness of the house enhances his natural psychopathy. The sickening scene in the 6th episode, Piggy Piggy, is heavily based on the Columbine shootings from the mid-1990s. This scene shows how twisted and unsympathetic Tate actually is, since audiences may have been charmed by his charisma up to this point. The Columbine shootings were incalculably evil, just like Tate Langdon. Unfortunately, the difference is that the Columbine shooters are real, making the scene even harder to watch as it mirrors the real-life events all the way down to the victim's dialogue. Dr. Thredson seems to be a trustworthy, heroic character throughout most of Asylum, one of the scariest seasons. However, he does not reveal his true colors until part 2 of I Am Anne Frank and The Origins of Monstrosity, when fans learn that Thredson has been the notorious killer, Bloodyface, the entire time. Dr. Thredson is heavily based on the notorious serial killer, Ed Gein, who butchered his victims and used their skin to make himself household items and clothes. Thredson's fleshy lamp is the perfect example of what could be found among Gein's trophies. Thredson's sinister intentions may seem like they can only exist in a dark show like American Horror Story, but Gein is proof that, as Judy Martin says, all monsters are human. The story of the real Madame LaLaurie and her torture house is probably one of the darkest and sickest stories in American history. Naturally, it is a central storyline in the 3rd season of the series, Coven. The LaLaurie mansion resides in New Orleans, Louisiana, and its disturbing history wards off tourists and locals alike from going anywhere near the well-known haunted house. The character Madame LaLaurie is based on a real person. She was a rich slave owner who presented herself well and hosted great parties. But behind closed doors, she would brutally torture her slaves and often kill them in the attic of the slave house. The season covers some of her atrocities throughout a few of the episodes, from her bloodbath of a nightly ritual to her torture chamber and the grisly results of human experimentation. In Hotel, the deceased maid Miss Evers tells John of the horrifying experience of losing her son in the Wineville chicken coop murders. She tells him that the boy was snatched by a man in a car on Halloween and taken to a chicken farm where he was massacred alongside dozens of other boys. The Wineville chicken coop murders did really occur in the 1920s, and they were exactly as Miss Evers describes them to John. Authorities discovered that Gordon Stewart Northcott kidnapped several children and discarded of their unidentifiable butchered remains in a mass grave. This episode brings the forgotten American tragedy to light by placing the innocent child of a sympathetic character into the horror. Papa Legba appears in a few episodes and seasons of American Horror Story, notably in Coven and Apocalypse. The character is based on the Loa and Haitian voodoo, who acts as a mediator between humans and the Loa. In the series, the character does the same, connecting the witches to the spirits in the next life. True to the lore, he ends up collecting a few of the souls of main antagonists in the season, such as Madame LaLaurie, Fiona Good, and Michael Langdon, inadvertently helping the protagonists. James March, the owner of the Hotel Cortez and a central spirit in Hotel, is actually based on the very real and notorious serial killer of the 1890s, H.H. Holmes. Holmes, like James March, also owned a hotel and used his business as a way to trap, murder, and hide the bodies of countless women. It is believed that he could have killed over 200 people based on the number of bodies in his hidden chambers. Holmes's hotel was called the World's Fair Hotel and often nicknamed the Murder Castle after the killer confessed to 27 murders. The Murder Castle had soundproof rooms, maze-like hallways, and hidden passages in rooms. All facets that James March could have constructed, but did not necessarily need considering the dark veil around the Cortez that protects his life's work. Anyway, Roanoke was a colony that up and disappeared on the coast of North Carolina back in the 1500s. The island was left totally deserted, and it has always been a mystery where the people actually went. There have been some pretty wild theories, mostly associated with aliens or supernatural intervention. This lost colony is exactly what the 6th season of American Horror Story is about, and even features the ghosts of many of the people who had been lost in Roanoke. All that was left of the settlement was the word Croatoan, carved on a tree, a word that makes numerous appearances in the season. Speaking of aliens, Asylum's Kit and Alma Walker were inspired by a couple named Barney and Betty Hill, some of the first people to ever claim to have been abducted by aliens in 1961. They recounted horrifying events to FBI agents, news reporters, and psychologists, laying the conceptual groundwork that would later become commonly used motifs in alien and UFO media. Kit Walker and his wife Alma are a classic AHS cultural reference to the Hills. They are even an interracial couple, which sparked controversy for Barney and Betty and made the public believe they were a less reliable source regarding the alien abductions. The 4th episode of Hotel introduces viewers to one of the most macabre crossover events of all time, Devil's Night. Now, I know we briefly talked about this episode already, but there is so much more going on. James March hosts a ghoulish dinner party with some familiar faces. The table is filled with famous serial killers, all recounting their horrendous crimes and one-upping each other's approach to the craft. Fans see Jeffrey Dahmer, John Wayne Gacy, Richard Ramirez, the Zodiac Killer, and more. Some killers like Ramirez and Gacy appear as characters or are referenced by villains like Twisty the Clown in other seasons of the show. This episode is dark yet mystical, bringing as many famous murderers as possible together, like a horrid villainous version of the Avengers. Don't forget to subscribe, it's the best way to support the channel. Thanks for watching.